All right, welcome everybody to the regular Galt City Council meeting for July 1st. Mr. City Attorney, can I have a report from closed session?
The council met in closed session, provided direction to staff, and took no reportable action.
All right, thank you, sir. I'll now call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Here.
Councilmember Pratton.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez. Here. Mayor Farmer.
Here. If everyone can please join us in a silent prayer, followed by a flag salute. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to item F, agenda approval, additions and/or deletions. Do I have anything from the council? No? All right. Move on to presentations. Do we have any presentations this evening?
None this evening.
All right. Next item will be H, public comment. Tina?
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the City Council on non-agenda items. The public comment section is for the City Council to receive comments, except for brief responses to questions. No discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Consistent with the City Council procedural guidelines, the mayor reserves the right to shorten the time limit for speakers to ensure the efficient and timely completion of all city business on the agenda. Joan Werblin.
Staff, my name is Joan Werblin, and I am the newly elected chair of the Commission on Aging. And my purpose of coming tonight really is to reacquaint the city of Galt with who we are, that we do exist, and where we're going. There are 5 commissioners. Each of us was chosen by a council member. We have been duly sworn in, and we are accountable, each of us, to our council members who chose us. I would like to tell you that we have been charged as a commission to provide oversight of our senior population, of which Galt City has a lot of seniors, myself included. And we have been looking at what has been going on in the organization or disorganization of what we're trying to accomplish. So we have taken a strong look at it and realized that what we need to do is be more receptive, more available, more visible to our population, seniors and others. So we are embarking on revising our agenda of what we do. We meet on the 3rd Thursday of the month, and they're open meetings, the same as all public meetings. We would love to have people join us. We meet at Cibola at 10 o'clock in the morning. To date, we have been mostly known as the bingo people, and we're trying to change that image a little bit or broaden it. We are charged with oversight of our seniors to ensure that they have suitable, safe living, access to food, social activities. We are bound to help them develop projects. We are now starting a monthly walk in the park, and that will be at 10 o'clock, and we're doing the first one at the community park. And they're going to be once a month, and we will have them posted on the websites. So we invite seniors, family members, caregivers, anybody who wants to join us. We don't know how long or how far we'll walk, but we're going to make an attempt at least to troll through the park. Each month will be a different park designated as a starting point. So we move around the town and we're not paying special attention to any one area. We also have 2 meetings coming up. One is with SMUD, and this is important not only to seniors, but they're going to do the program for SMUD. And that's just, if you come in, they will sit down with you on a 1-to-1 and register you for your decreased electrical cost. So you have to be a senior and bring with you your identification and proof of your residency here and your income. And they will sign you up right then and there. The other program we have coming up next Thursday is with the Legal Aid Society, and they're going to go over some of the legal assistance programs that are available to our seniors who don't know that they are a protected class. And, you know, the legal problems that we as seniors run into run the full gamut. So they're going to do, and it's free. These are all free, and they're at Cibola. And you can call the Resource Center to get the date and time, and we'll be posting them on the websites. So it's important, I think, for you all to know that we are working on revitalizing the Commission on Aging and that we're looking at the entire population of seniors. We're always open to suggestions. The other program that I'm starting on the 2nd and 4th Monday of every month, I'm starting Talk to a Commissioner. And we will be scheduling one-on-one appointments. If you want to come in and tell us the good, bad, and indifferent of what you're experiencing, we will sit down with you on a 1-to-1 basis at Cibola in the Resource Center. You can call there and make your appointment. We encourage you to come. If you have a care provider who needs to come with you, that's fine. If you want to bring a family member, it's up to you, or it can be a very straightforward one-on-one conversation. And we're open to suggestions of where are we going. Right now, we're looking at one of Mr. Lee's projects, and that's more benches around town in the park and all, and how can we possibly add that. And we're also looking at the cost of the local transportation, which used to be 50 cents, and it's up to $1.75. We're looking to see if we can supplement that and give some grants. So that's it. I just wanted to reintroduce ourselves to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Kenley.
Good evening, council members. I'd like to bring up, it's been a big improvement on the 4th Street Promenade at D Street. The landscaping was not only cut to the right height for good visibility at the crossing point to see the children, wheelchairs, and seniors, but it was beautifully landscaped. It was trimmed into various shapes. It wasn't just hacked to a certain height. After all, it's eye-appealing to the people who visit Velvet Grill, and out-of-towners and people in town will notice it. It's a good point on site to, a lasting view of what Galt is. I also been observing the parking spaces in town. The new gigantic transit vans that are 7 by 22 feet to 24 feet, they're commercial and private, are not suited to fit into regular parking spaces in this town. The shopping center spaces are only 9 by 18. City Hall spaces are 9 by 20. Especially on the C Street corridor, they just hang out too far into the traffic lanes and making cars go into the oncoming lane to get around them. Could the city consider designating larger commercial spaces, no parking in the diagonal spaces, because they're just too far out? There used to be, commercial laws. In the shopping center, there should be no parking in front of the storefronts. Those spaces are too short, but they could park in the spaces in the middle using 2 spaces, and that way they won't be sitting out into the lane of traffic. But the width still becomes a factor. After all, they are a foot wider. And the width of the parking, they're 7 feet, and the parking width is 9 feet. It creates vehicles parked in the spaces next to them, tight access in and out of the cars, and moving the car in and out of the space. Us seniors need all the space we can get to turn in and out of spaces. That's why handicap spaces are nice, because they're awfully wide for us. The handicap space on the southwest space of Littleton Hall, it didn't get the tire stop put back in after the asphalt repair. Basically, for safety, it stops the vehicles from going too far forward, and it prevents the cars from accidentally driving into the building exterior posts of Littleton Center. After complaining about the parking signs in the alleyway of Galt Place, they are now missing. Someone tore them down. And so basically, people are turning in the alley into private parking spaces day and night. Additional signs would be very helpful for our seniors to drive in and out of our alleys, and basically making it a two-way flow. And to get in and out of our carports and driveway at a wider turn angle versus a sharper turning angle, having to back up, reposition, and then turn to get out. So, basically, tenants and caretakers should be aware after they accommodate people, they shouldn't be parking in the street blocking our access. And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Griffin, would it be possible for you to look into the missing parking block thing at the Chibola? If that's, I know we had a recent incident at a church where someone drove through the front. Makes me think of that, so if we can just look into that. I don't know if that's your purview or Mr. Armando's. Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any more public comment?
Not on that.
All right. All right, well, that will move it on to item I, which is reports by city council members on regional boards, commissions, and committees. We will start with Mr. Bratton.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Sandu.
Nothing to report tonight.
Oh, you guys are just full of information tonight. Mr. Reed.
Nothing.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Nothing. That fifth week in a month is great. No meetings.
I don't think I had anything either, I can recall. So I have nothing to report as well. Slow week in civics, I guess. All right. Moving on to item J, our information consent calendar. It is recommended that items 1 through 8 be acted upon simultaneously unless a separate discussion and/or action is requested by a council member. These items are, number 1, receive and file warrants for June 2025. Item 2 is the minutes of the regular meeting for June 17th, 2025. Item 3 is the Elm Avenue brick wall replacement project CIP scope change. Item 4 is the approval of memorandum of understanding for stormwater compliance services 2025 to 2030. Item 5 is the cancellation of the regular city council meeting of August 5th of 2025. Item 6 is the public education and governmental fee funding. Item 7 is the agreement with the County of Sacramento for hazardous materials response teams. And item 8 is the approval of the unrepresented management, unrepresented min management, and unrepresented professional / confidential salary schedules over a 3-year period. Does any council member wish to pull any of said items?
I don't want to pull. I just have a quick question about 5.
Okay, about item,
The city council meeting. Did we figure out if that 4 o'clock is for the regular portion of the meeting or for a closed session?
Closed session.
Closed session's at 4. Okay.
okay. I actually am going to pull item 3 just for a couple questions, and I apologize, Mr. Griffin. I've just been busy and didn't have a chance ahead. Anybody else? All right, well, I'll be looking for a motion to approve items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
Move.
Moved by the Vice Mayor,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Pratton. I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Pratton,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Consent calendar approved 5-0. So item J3 is my item. I was just trying to read through this really quick. I apologize. I was busy over the weekend doing family stuff, and I didn't have a chance to look at this. My understanding is that, so we approved to do the wall replacement, right? But it didn't cost as much as we thought, so you wanted to allocate some of this funding in somewhere else? Is that,
Generally, yes, there's two items. One,
Okay.
the prior action was specific to a couple locations in town. And so there was a budget assigned to it. We were under budget, and we've been notified of another wall failure. And given the age of the walls that we have throughout town, we expect to see this happen more and more frequently. So that's the reason for the changes. We've got the wall at the corner of McTucker and I should know it. Anyways, that needs repair. So that's the
Okay.
purpose, is to identify what our potential options are and then repair the wall. Hopefully with the remaining budget that was authorized for the prior wall repairs.
do we think the remaining budget will be enough or not?
Don't know yet. We
Okay.
will be identifying that. So if it's not, then we'll need to return to council for additional funds.
Okay. So then the recommendation is simply to what?
So the recommendation is simply to amend the description of the CIP project to allow for repair of walls throughout the city. The prior council action was specific to 2 locations.
Okay. So if the funding required to repair said wall is more, then what happens?
Correct. If so, with the remaining budget of about $100,000, if we exceed that for this wall repair, we'll need to return to council and ask for
Okay.
more funds.
All right. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this?
I just have a quick question since you pulled it. Is this something that we should start planning for and have some sort of funding set aside as we know this, like roads, we know we start saving for those?
Yes, we will need to start doing that.
All right. Is there any public comment on this item since I pulled it?
No public comment.
All right. All right. I'll be looking for a motion to adopt a resolution amending the scope of the Elm Avenue Brick Wall Replacement Project CIP 524G. Do I have a motion to approve that item? Moved by Councilmember Reed,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Pratton. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Pratton,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Items approved 5-0. Moved on to item K, scheduled matters, notice of public hearing. Do we have any this evening?
None this evening.
All right, thank you. On to our regular calendar. First item is from the Human Resources Department. It is the resolution approving the memorandum of understanding between the City of Galt and the Galt Police Officers Association, new police officer corporal classification, salary schedules, and amendments to benefits. Ms. Kobe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Presented before you tonight is the Galt Police Officers Association Memorandum of Understanding. Tonight, we are asking for you to adopt a resolution for the GPOA Memorandum of Understanding, salary schedules, and amendments to benefits. The summary of the MOU includes a 2-year term from July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2027. There's a 1% increase for positions already within the median base salary and market adjustments for the officer and sergeant classifications over a 2-year term. There's a $50 monthly increase towards the health reimbursement account, a $50 increase per month towards bilingual pay for certified employees. We are continuing the contribution of the city's 80% towards the Kaiser Medical Plan. We're increasing vacation accrual after 22 years of service, which will be equivalent to 6 weeks of vacation accrual. And we're moving the 5% corporal assignment pay into a new police officer corporal classification. And to be clear, with the creation of this classification, we're not adding any full-time equivalent positions. So the financial impact of the salaries and benefits of this MOU is approximately $213,000 annually. I would like to take this time to thank the GPOA president, Mike Little, and the rest of the negotiations team for their efforts in getting this contract completed. Is there any questions?
Ms. Kobe, just as a reminder, how many positions do we have in the police department, roughly?
In
Maybe
the
Chief
police
can-
department? Well, in the GPOA, we have
In the GPO, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
35.
Pertaining to this contract, right?
Correct, 35.
Does council have any comments for Ms. Kobe?
Yes, there is no comment, but thank you, Ms. Copy, to give us whole detail with the report. And I'm glad to be supporting this resolution this tonight with the police department. They work hard for protect our city and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to Mike Little for your representation of the GPOA. I'm glad we were able to come to a mutual agreement that everybody found reasonable. And we do appreciate everything that Galt PD does for us. And we're happy that we could come to an agreement on this. And it was relatively painless. So very happy. This is always a tough time of year, you know, looking at money and trying to reward people for what they do for us and so on. So without anything further, I know we talked about this a bunch in closed session, so I'm sure none of us have really any questions. If not,
I would just also like to reiterate the mayor and vice mayor's sentiments. Thank you, Tricia, for all your hard work and representing us at the table, and really appreciate GPOA for their consideration, and it just went so smoothly. So thank you from a freshman city council member, having sat on the other side and watched the nightmares that can come from this. It did not happen. It just shows where our city's at and that we can work cooperatively. It's been great. So thank you for all your hard work.
do we have any public comment on this particular item?
No public comment.
All right. Well, with that, I'll be looking to, hang on, I got to go back to the page. It's a different page. I'll be looking for a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Galt and the Galt Police Officers Association, the new police officers corporal classification, salary schedules, and amendments to benefits. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by the Vice Mayor. I will second that motion. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Aye.
Councilmember Pratton.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Approved 5-0. All right, next item is going to be from the Parks and Recreation Department. The subject is the naming of 2 city parks located in the new Liberty Ranch subdivision and one in the Elliott Ranch subdivision. Mr. Solis.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Armando Solis, Parks and Rec Director. Tonight you have before you the naming of the parks that you've mentioned. I'll wait for that slide to come on up. Sorry, I think Tricia broke the. There you go. Just needed Amy. That's why we hired a assistant city manager. So in 1995, the City Council adopted Resolution 9591, creating a policy for naming of parks and buildings. On the screen is the objective and policy that was approved. May I point out number 2A, in which parks adjacent to schools will be named similarly. 2 of the parks tonight are next to school properties. Unfortunately, the school district has not named those school properties as of last week and do not have any plans to in the near future. So we have to move forward and continue to name the 2 properties.
So question real quick. if this is our policy, that they're named similarly, define similarly, like that, what does that mean?
So, Greer Basin, Lake Kent, Marengo.
Oh, similar to the
Yeah.
school that they're nearby. Okay, got you. All right. Sorry.
No worries. And then, as encouraged by the resolution, staff requested public participation in the naming of these parks by soliciting names from the public through a survey advertised on social media like Instagram, Facebook, Nextdoor, along with the city newsletter and the Galt Herald. Attaches a screenshot of the survey outlining the policy in which you just saw. The first two parks where they asked, Liberty Park identified as 1 and 2. They asked for the proposed name and the significance of the name that for that park. Here you see Elliott Ranch Subdivision Park, and again, we asked for the proposed name and significant reason. The city received 37 submissions by survey and 1 by email from the developer. I'm going to briefly go through the process in which we went through with the Parks and Recreation. If at any point you'd like me to stop and explain what I'm doing, but there's quite a few names that we would have to go through, and all those names are in the packets and the reasons they gave. So here are the 38 names divided into each park. What I did is I personally went through each one and picked out what I felt were the qualified names through the policy. You see those highlighted there. I took out the ones that had duplicate facility names like Harvey Park, Harvey Road, Barber Payne Community Garden, Biederman Meeting Rooms, McFarland Street, McFarland Ranch, Officer Ton and Graywall they have their memorials, and they'll also have roads named after them in the new subdivisions. Again, that does not prohibit you from picking one of those. I just wanted to point out the fact that they already had destinations in the city named after them. With taking those out, like Elliott Ranch Park and Elliott Park, and Elliott Ranch Park again, I took all those out and just left one of them in, just so there was just one showing. This is my recommendation as the Parks and Rec Director. For Liberty Ranch 1 was Don Natoli Park, Liberty Ranch 2 was Marengo Park, and Elliott was Gonzalez Park. Oops. What you see here is what the Parks and Rec Commission is recommending to you, which was Don Natoli, Liberty, and Freedom Park for those 3 parks. Staff's recommendation is to review the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission regarding the name of the city parks, Liberty Ranch 1, Liberty Ranch 2, and Elliott Ranch, and provide direction to staff. I did want to note that the City Council has the discretion to either approve the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission, choose any of the submitted names from the designated park, or nominate a name for any of the 3 parks. Once the 3 parks are named, we'll return with the resolution for approval. And then I'm just going to put all 38 back up here in case you wanted to point to one of them. See? Wasn't that long.
All right, thank you, Mr. Solis. Do we want to go to public comment first, council, or anybody want to ask a question first? All right, do we have any public comment?
Yes. Solange Gonzalez Altman.
I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but we're old school. So, Mayor Farmer, distinguished members of the council, Mr. Reyes, my name is Solange Gonzalez Altman. I'm the daughter of Jack and Teresa Gonzalez, both deceased, and I'm here representing our family. Our family sold the Elliott to Elliott Homes, the 7 acres for the park in the Elliott subdivision that you are naming tonight.
One of the conditions in our sales agreement with Elliott was that the park be named Gonsalves Park. Elliott said the final say was up to the city, but submitted a request to Parks and Recreation on our behalf. We still own 11 acres of the original site, which has been proposed for an elementary school. Had we known about the park naming process, we would have submitted the letter and supporting attachments that I sent to all of you 3 weeks ago, and that I resent on June 29th. It is requested that those documents be made a part of the public record. Do you need other copies of that, or are we good?
We have it.
Okay.
Yep.
We are requesting that the park in the Elliott subdivision be named Gonsalves Park. Gonsalves is pronounced, in Portuguese it's Gonçalves, but in English it's usually Gonsalves. The C in Gonsalves is pronounced like an S. The Galt guidelines for the selection of park names provide that it is to honor persons who contributed significantly to the city overall. I believe that my father qualifies under this criteria. In the history of Galt, it indicates that Marengo Road, which was on property owned by Agostino Marengo, was named for him because he was a highly respected citizen of the vicinity, was the most distinguished of his Italian countrymen to settle in the Galt district. My father, like Agostino Marengo, owned the land under which the proposed park is to be built, and like Marengo, he was a reputable dairy farmer who was well respected by his countrymen, the Portuguese in this community. In 1967, my father started the Gonsalves Dairy on Marengo Road. He purchased the land a short time later. The property was operated as a dairy farm until 2005. For more than 50 years, the property was known to the dairy community in Galt as the Gonsalves Dairy. And this is what it looked like in its heyday. And I know Mayor Farmer and Councilmember Pratton are lifelong members of Galt, but you were probably babies when it looked like this and don't remember it. You do? Great.
You just dated yourself, Mr. Pratton.
Like most of the Portuguese in this area, my father was born in the Azores Islands, which was part of Portugal. He was born into poverty and was determined to overcome it. He was driven to make the Gonsalves Dairy a successful grade A dairy, one of the most productive in the area. In the 1970s, he received awards for having some of the highest producing cows from the Dairy Herd Improvement Association. If you look at the aerial photo of the dairy taken in the 70s, you can see the pride of ownership. The farm it's not fancy, but the farm was kept meticulously clean and well manicured. And you can see the lush cornfields, which were a testament to his farming skills. My father was respected by the dairy farmers in the community and was active in St. Christopher's Catholic Church and the Portuguese Cultural Societies, the SES Festa in Elk Grove and Our Lady of Fatima in Thornton. These two organizations hold cultural events, serve a free meal of sopas to the public. If you've never had them, you should have them, and awarded educational scholarships. The dairy farmers in the Galt community were a close-knit group and people of integrity. They entered into contracts on a handshake. Their word was their bond. If they made a bad deal, they didn't come back and undo it or sue to change it. They helped each other. If one had an equipment failure, another would provide a loaner. If someone got sick, they stepped into what they could do to help. Why were they so close? Dairy farming was and continues to be incredibly difficult work. Dairy farmers work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There is always some emergency, a cow having difficult time giving birth, a mechanical breakdown of some sort, a shortage of water. Dairy farming was a significant part of Galt for many years. O'Neill Lawrence, who is now 94 years old, was able to recall the names of 31 Portuguese immigrants with dairies in the 1970s. In addition to those of Portuguese descent, there were some of Dutch, Swiss, and Italian immigrant ancestry. Statistics for Sacramento County show that in 1974, the top 3 agricultural commodities in Sacramento County, respectively, were 1, corn, 2, cattle and calves, and 3, milk. In 2021, market milk was the second most valuable agricultural commodity in Sacramento County, valued at $66 million. It wasn't until after 2008 that there was a dramatic drop in the number of small dairy farms. Economics forced them out. Only the larger dairies have been able to survive. Even though dairy farming was a major industry in Galt for many years, the City of Galt's website indicates that by the turn of the century, cattle raising and dairying gradually decreased. This is not true. Dairy farming and cattle raising were thriving decades after that, and corn produced to feed cattle was significant here. Lodi may have had the grapes for wine, but Galt had the milk for the cheese paired with it, and the butter used to prepare the rich entrees, and the ice cream for dessert, which was served with the wine. Our family believes that the park should be named Gonçalves Park, not only to honor my father, one of the leaders in the Portuguese community, but to also honor the hard work and achievements of the dairyman ancestors of many proud Galtonians. If you name the park Gonçalves Park, we propose that there be a plaque stating something like the following. This park sits on what was once the Gonçalves Dairy. Jack Gonçalves was a Portuguese immigrant who moved to Galt in 1967 and operated a successful, productive grade A dairy. The property was used as a dairy until 2005. From the 1960s to the early 2000s, the dairy industry thrived in Galt with dozens of small dairies primarily owned and operated by immigrants of Portuguese, Dutch, Swiss, and Italian descent. During these years, milk, cattle, and corn were among the top agricultural commodities in Sacramento County. Gonçalves Park is an acknowledgement of the hard work, determination, and contribution to our community of these farmers, of which their Galtonian descendants are very proud. Any questions?
Thank you for your information and presentation. We're not allowed to actually have dialogue with public
All right.
comment, but I let you go over because you had a very prepared thing, so I let you take all the time you needed to do
Oh,
that.
thank
so
you. I tried to stay at 5 minutes.
That's all right. It's tough. I know. Yeah.
I think there are a few other people that wanted to speak.
Do they could fill out a speaker card and bring it up, and they're okay.
Oh, and I also wanted to say, with respect to the proposal for Donatoli Park, Donatoli was my civics teacher in high school, and he was a great teacher, and we went to St. Christopher's and knew them, knew the family there. And in the interest of full disclosure, Donatoli and I were on student council together, and that was what was the springboard of his political career. But anyway, we support the park.
Thank you. Next public speaker.
Price Walker.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Price Walker, Vice President of Elliott Homes. I will be shorter and certainly not as eloquent and probably not have the same passion that Solange did, but I do want to urge you to name the park Gonçalves Park. As Solange said, we did have an agreement to name the park if it could be at all possible. It's something that I think is important. It's rare and unique. We've built a lot of parks over the region, and I'm not sure I can remember one that we had the unique opportunity to name it after the folks and the family that we bought the property from. I think it's a pretty important opportunity that you all have tonight, and I hope you take this opportunity to do, I think, what's the right thing and name it after Solange's family. They certainly meet all the criteria, and it's something we would feel very proud to have that in the centerpiece of our community. Thank you.
Just have a brief question for you. To be clear, Elliot, you guys are the ones that build the park, and then the city maintains it afterwards, right?
That is the plan. Yes.
Okay. So any such marker on any park of sorts would fall under whose responsibility?
Probably we'd work with the city to come up with a design and a location, and and we could build it as part of our contract. And once it's built, you guys would own it and maintain it.
Okay, just curious. Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Dolores Gregorio.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name's Dolores Gregorio, and I'd like to read a statement on behalf of Philomena Hall, who was unable to be here tonight, supporting the naming of the park in the new Elliott subdivision as Gonçalves Park. I write today to urge you to approve the naming of Gonzalez Park. As a person raised in Galt and now home again in retirement, I am filled with gratitude each time I drive through the town and notice places with familiar names: Littleton, Natoli, Fletcher, Lawrence, and so many more. I feel both proud and blessed. Proud that such fine individuals have been recognized, and blessed to have known them and been touched by the goodness each of them has brought to our community. Jack Gonzalez is among them. Jack Gonzalez was a very honorable, hardworking member of a quiet but important part of our community, the Portuguese dairymen, people who gave their all to raise their families, build successful businesses, support their faith organizations, and in his case, provide leadership when needed. He was a very respected member of this community. He built a grade A dairy business from basically nothing. He developed a high butterfat production herd honored with prizes. I digress a bit about this point to point out his courage. He did this at a time when the industry pushed dairymen to produce volume over quality. To achieve this, he had to gamble on his whole herd. It took knowledgeable breeding, quality feed, skillful management, and tremendous courage and faith. He lived his faith, supported his church, as well as the Our Lady of Fatima organization in Thornton and the SES Hall in Elk Grove. For Elk Grove, he not only was one of the founding members, literally preparing the building for use, he also provided leadership by serving as president a bit later in time. Jack Gonzalez was not the only man who loved God, family, herd, and land. He was not the only one who worked tirelessly. There were others. The matter is that the park marks the place in which Mr. Gonzalez was the neighbor we all want to have. I believe it is entirely fitting that descendants are reminded of the sacrifices and positive examples of those who came before them. It is fitting that future generations are reminded that once Galt had large open fields where herds of cattle were grown, where hay and grain were produced by the ton, and that there were families who courageously gambled all against Mother Nature, fickle markets, daily challenges, and together with their neighbors forged the city of Galt, often described as a highly desirable place to live. Gonzalez Park can help us to remember. I respectfully request you approve naming Gonzalez Park, knowing that by doing so, you not only honor Mr. Gonzalez and the land he loved, but also the others whose children and great-grandchildren can come and recreate in a beautiful place made possible by those who came before. I apologize that I'm not able to attend the meeting in person because I care for my elderly father, but hope that this letter serves to inform you of my position of the naming of the park. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Philomena Lawrence Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment?
No more.
No more public comment? Sir, if you want to just come up to the podium, actually, go ahead, just come up to the podium.
Sorry?
Just come up to the podium if you can. Is it going to be?
Well, my suggestion is on something like these parks, the maps he showed, they should be printed up in this, the announcement with major street names on, so those of us that don't know what Elliott Park and
Okay.
just have some idea what the heck's going on.
All right. Thank you, sir. Can you bring those map pictures up again, please, just so the audience can see it while we discuss this? So just for the audience, as the gentleman in the audience, I'm just going to clarify. So the Elliott Park is going to be in the new development area that's between Simmerhorn Road to the north, Bossaw Road to the south, and Marengo Road to the east. So it's what we call, and Highway 99 to the west. So it's that notch area that's east of 99, that area that's bordered by those three roads. The park is actually up against Marengo, Mr. Solis?
So Elliott Park will back into Bossaw Road.
Go back into Bossaw, okay. All right. So if you were to head down Bossaw Road, come down the overpass and come to Basso Road, about midway, a third of the way, somewhere in there,
Closer towards Marengo.
closer towards Marengo. So after you pass the Carillion, where Carillion now cuts through, it's on the other side of that, right?
I'm sorry.
Where Carillion
Yes,
cuts
past
through,
Carillion.
it's past that.
It's past Carillion, closer to Marengo, but you'd have to enter through Marengo's side. There is no entrance from Basso Road.
Okay. So basically, this park is a new park, not yet to be built. The homes are being built now. And then the other two parks are in the Liberty Ranch subdivision, which are adjacent to the Liberty Ranch High School, all that area out there heading towards between Marengo and bordered on the backside by Cherokee.
Correct.
Correct.
The proposed Officer Ton Parkway is the main thoroughway through there. I'm not sure if the other streets have been named to even tell you what street it would be on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's Graywall.
How big are those parks approximately, the ones in Liberty Ranch?
So number 2 is going to be a small neighborhood park.
Okay.
And then number 1 would be kind of like close to McCaffrey size.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that's helpful to those watching and those in the audience. Council, does anybody want to kick off conversation with any comments or anything? I like Not So Scenic Park. Somebody put a lot of thought into that one.
Did you see the number 23 up there? It's Solus Park, and Solus Park.
That has nothing to do with you, sir, right?
It has to be my dad.
Well, he had
30's me.
very long explanations for why it should be.
30's me, though.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of good names up here. I mean, there's a lot of people that contribute to the community in one way or the other. A lot of names I recognize, people have been a part of, and it's always, interesting to see things and think about people who've changed our community in one way or the other. Can you throw, I saw the parks recommendations. The staff recommendations are?
Just to consider them all. This was my recommendation as the Parks and Rec Director after going through all the names. As you can see, 23 and 30 did not make the cut. But number 1 was Natoli Park for Liberty Ranch. Number 2 was Marengo, and Elliott was Gonsalves Park.
Okay. Anybody want to talk? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you for the Park and Rec Director. I know when they give the name to these parks, they really have to lot of study and lot of thing and lot of survey they took, and they did a lot of time. And I also like to thank you, Park and Rec Commission. When they have a meeting, they make a recommendation. I would like to make a comment on the Elliott, on the park. And I see that comments from the public, and I see that name they ask, I think it's fall in number 2, right? Policy number 2. Mr. Solis? If, for example, hypothetically, if we consider a Goncalves Park, then which policy it can go under? Number 2?
Well,
Event, persons of historical significance, right?
correct.
So my kind of thinking when I do study all this, and I did the comment from the public study, and this is very, compelling evidence if we leaning towards name that park Goncalves. I know the Park and Recreation, they make the recommendation. I honor their recommendation, but that's like in my opinion. Because when I did my opinion, I did kind of thing I'm thinking of we change the name to this very historical person in this city, have a dairy long time, and this city name is on the dairy. And that's the comment I would like to, then I leave the other comment I will do later on. Let's go to the next person.
Mr. Solis, can you go back to the slide that had the policy up there again? I was just trying to read it. All right, thank you. Anybody else want to go?
Well, so while he's doing that, I think by reading the names that 2 out of the 3 of these ones that were recommended by the commission fall into one of those, right? Don Natoli Park, obviously, for obvious reasons. Liberty Park, because it's literally right down the street from Liberty Ranch High School. And then the one that gets me is Freedom Park, right? Where on the policy would the naming of that park fall into by one of these? To me, I can't find it. And so it would be more appropriate to me to name it after the prior owners than Freedom Park because of the current policy that we have. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up, not that Don Natoli doesn't deserve his own park, we all know how great he is. There is already a Don Natoli Park in Elk Grove. So it was brought to my attention that our first responders and our 911 dispatchers are going to have to take extra care to make sure that the caller determines what city they're in so we don't send resources to the wrong location. I'm not saying that we don't name it that. I was just bringing that up and as an area of concern.
On that note with Don Natoli, we're talking Don Natoli Jr., correct?
Correct.
So, because we have the Natoli Dome, so we do have a feature in the city named after his father, Don Natoli. So I don't know if it would help dispatch, if this is Don Natoli Jr. Park, or if we were really trying to cover both Dons. I don't, I don't know, but maybe that would help with that. But I do think that Don Natoli Jr. definitely needs recognition, whether it's in 12 cities. He probably deserves it. So I'm very much in support of the Don Natoli, and if we should add Junior just for his own recognition and maybe to help with dispatch, that might be something to consider. I'm okay with Marengo Park. I'm actually okay with Liberty Park. I don't have a problem with that. I am, the more and more I think about it, much more supportive of the Gonsalves Park. Not just for the family, although that is a huge part of it, but for the sake of our own history of our city. I think, as we grow and as these dairies and other farms and ranches are sold off, that's the history of the city. And as every generation comes and goes, we lose that touch with our history. So with that, I am behind Gonsalves. Now, I did not know that Elliott Homes would be building this. So, because what I pictured in my head, I know we already have the cow park, as people call it, out at Walker Park. Is that named after a dairyman?
Yes, it is. The Walker brothers.
That's what I thought. Do we have historical references there for people to learn about why there's a cow in the middle of that park?
No, we do not.
So I strongly suggest that staff works with Elliott, that we can definitely put a historical component in this. And, in a perfect world where people don't break things, I picture almost a historical park where, you're involving the Historical Society to maybe bring in some information so it's not just the one thing about the family, but maybe there's a bigger brass map or whatever they put to make it last that shows where all the dairies were, or some sort of historical. And then if there's interactive, is this a passive park or is there going to be play structures?
There will be 2 play structures there.
If there was somehow to have some sort of interactive, something about dairies, I don't know, the milk farms, I don't know, milking cows or something to kind of bring to light the history and not just a name and not just this is a dairy or was a dairy, because I have a feeling in a few more generations that kids aren't going to know what a dairy is. If we just say it in words, they're not going to know, but if we can kind of get some sort, I don't even know if that's possible, if they have play stuff out there like that, but it would be nice to help our history, and I bet the Historical Society would be all over this.
So I believe we're at 35% planning on that park already, so I think it would still allow us to add some of those features you're asking if you guys direct us to.
That's just my 2 cents.
You want me to go? You want to go?
I'll go. Yeah, absolutely support the dairy idea of Councilmember Rodriguez is talking about. Not just that, but I think, yeah, a map or something that kind of shows the region and the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the local dairymen. I actually have an uncle that was a dairyman here in town who was married to a Denier, which was, a big dairy family in this town. So support that 100%. Don Natoli Jr., I don't have any problem with that. I would support that. The other one, out of the list of names, I like the Miwok. Whether we do it in this one or a future one, but the Miwok tribal lands, this was all Miwok tribal lands at one time, even though they roamed. They didn't just stay in one place, but they did claim this area. So I think at some point we need to historically put that into something in our parks somewhere. So I don't know that this is the best one for that little tiny one.
May I add that there will be a 4th park coming into the Liberty Ranch subdivision. We're not close to that yet. It's more of a passive park with an orchard in it. That might be more appropriate for that one at that time.
Thank you for that
And
information.
isn't there a whole green belt space down the middle of it? Because that's where I kind of went, I was leaning toward Miwok, but then in talking to Chris, he reminded me of that green belt that may be, maybe with a walking trail, and maybe that would be a good place to have historical references with the Miwok, and maybe, engage with the Rancheria and see what they would recommend for spaces, and because I bet they would be very happy to be involved in something like
You
that.
could reach out and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only view. Yeah, I'd be all right with the other name either. That's fine. But the other two I support.
So, Mr. Solis, the Elliott Park, you said it's 35% planned already. So is there planned designs for the play structures just yet or not yet?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember seeing the finals on those. I know they have the name of our rep that we work with through Game Time, and she's very familiar with our parks and what we have in all our other parks. They're the ones who just designed the sports complex one. So they're very familiar with our town. And if we gave her some direction of this is what we want, they can easily come back with that type of playground structure.
So we could come back with some kind of farm type, isn't that what's at Walker Park right now? It's just out of the day.
Farmhouse, cow.
Yeah, it has that kind of thing. It has that kind of theme, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we could potentially do something like that to keep with the theme if we were to go with Gonzalez Park.
Yes, you could. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, they have so many designs, you could pick whatever you wanted to.
Well, my thoughts are, obviously, I do support the Don Natoli Park. I do think if we could figure out a name for an issue with the junior on it or something, because obviously, big contributor to the community for 30 years and all that. So I it goes without saying. As far as the Elliott Park, I would support the Gonzalez Park, but for two reasons. Not necessarily, and no disrespect to family. I mean, I'm not looking at this policy saying Holy fits in there because, it was, he did this or that to the community. But I just think for one, Elliott, that was their land. Just for one, and there was a kind of a verbal that we would name the park out, name a park after. So I just think, we did that with Walker Park, right? We did that with Famasi Park. So these are parks that were named after the people who previously owned the land. So I think we would very much fall in line with that for that reason. Second of all, I do like where, Councilwoman Rodriguez was going and Councilmember Pratt was going with we really need. And I think we have a little bit with Walker, but we really, we're a dairy community. My grandparents, my father and my grandparents and my great grandparents were dairy farmers here as well. They weren't Portuguese and they weren't Swiss and they weren't some of the other or whatever, but they were English. So there was English dairy farmers too. But so I think there's a whole history there of that needs to be remembered, because I do think we'll get to a day where there may be not any dairies left in Galt. So what I would like to see, I would support the Gonzalez name with the caveat that we very much try to do some things with the park that kind of stick with the theme of the dairy farm type thing with the play structures or whatever. And I also would like to see some marker. It doesn't have to be some massive thing. And I honestly, I don't know if it needs to be as lengthy as the family member spoke. I think, mentioning the father, obviously, that would be great, but I think it needs to also, kind of just be a tribute to the dairy farmers in Galt, what created Galt. So I think if the Historical Society or anybody else could help work on some kind of verbiage of that, it could be something, it doesn't have to be some extravagant thing, but some kind of marker of some sort that says something like that, that's semi-vandal proof. Maybe it's metal, I don't know, whatever, but I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. But I would like to see something like that. So I would support it if it did have, the mention of the landowner, the Gonzalez family, but also too a mention of the dairy heritage of Galt, I think, mentioned in there. So that's how I would support it in that way. The other one, Marengo, there's already Marengo Road. They already have a name. The road's already named. I don't really think we need to double name it. Of course, Liberty's not really naming it after somebody, but I do think Liberty has a clean name. It sounds right for the area. You have Liberty Ranch Subdivision. You have Liberty Ranch High School. I think Liberty Park just makes sense to me. So I would support then Don Natoli Junior Park, Liberty Park, and then the Gonzalez Park for the Elliott. That's what I would support. So that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to complete on the first one, Don Natoli Jr., I will support that. And the Liberty Ranch, number 2, the Liberty Park, because the Liberty High School right there, so I will support that. And the third one, I already make my comment. Thank you.
So if there's any other discussion, then I would like to make a motion to, my motion would be to approve the 2 Liberty Ranch parks as Don Natoli Junior Park, Liberty Park, and then the Elliott Park be the Gonzalez Park with the caveats of working with Elliott Homes and Parks and Rec and whatever community organization, whatever, we could provide some kind of whatever, like I mentioned, with the tribute to the dairy and the family and that stuff. Is that clear enough?
Yes.
Verbiage? All right. That's my motion. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second. Either one.
Seconded by the vice mayor. Can I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu?
Aye.
Councilmember Pratton?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mayor Farmer?
Yes. Approved to 5-0.
So just to be clear, that was direction to staff to bring those names forward for formal adoption in the future.
Yep. All right. Moving on to our last regular item this evening from the Public Works Department, Adairway options. Mr. Griffin.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. The purpose of tonight's item is to provide an update on the traffic control options for Adairway. Tonight's presentation will focus on the following subjects. I'll review prior direction from council.
Excuse me, Mr. Griffin, sorry. I just want to say to the family who's leaving, don't forget your easel and your photograph. Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Griffin, sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. So overview, kind of the main subjects for tonight's presentation. We'll go over the prior direction from council, talk about, we'll identify what the 3 primary speed control devices are. We'll go over some quick points about the draft speed control program policy. Talk about potential locations for speed humps. Again, summarize the 5 options for council consideration along with their costs, and then finish up with questions. So as a brief summary, on the last time we were here on the 20th, council asked us to return with draft speed control program guidelines, also to identify potential locations for speed control devices and identify preliminary estimates of cost for these options. So there's three primary speed control devices: speed humps, speed lumps, speed tables. I will provide a brief description of each on the following slides, and I'm not going to read verbatim what's on the slides, but the pictures, I'll kind of summarize what they are. So speed humps are what we all think of as, kind of what we see in the shopping center at Rayleigh's. Those are your typical speed bumps that there's no gaps. They're just one long speed hump, speed bump. And, the excerpts in the photos here are from the National Association of County Transportation Officials. Speed lumps, similar to speed humps or speed bumps, but there are gaps to facilitate quicker movement of public safety. The width and location of those can vary based on the equipment and the vehicles that public safety have. And then speed tables are primarily they're almost like a raised crosswalk in a way. So these are allowed, you typically have a bit more speed when you traverse through these. So these are the three main options. And later we'll get into what our recommendations are. But that background information is helpful as we go into the speed program policy. What we looked at other agencies, and what we found is we really liked the program and the policy from the city of Elk Grove. As a note, the program that's in the council packet, that's a draft program, and we're here to answer questions and receive feedback from council on that draft program. We can make changes as needed before we finalize the program. So a couple of the benefits, just to talk about. One of the benefits we liked about the program from Elk Grove is it outlined a two-step community process and in the request for placement of speed control devices. Step one is the neighborhood will get together and submit a formal request identifying the bounds of the area they want looked at, and they will have to spearhead getting signatures from the community, and a minimum of 75% of the residents will need to sign off on this request before staff even take a look at it. So again, after that, staff will evaluate the information. They'll go collect information and look at, we may have to go collect traffic data. We'll go assess, what's out in the field and look at what options there are. After we do that, we will come up with what we think is the best proposed solution to address the complaints or concerns from the community. We then will reach out to the residents that will be directly affected. For example, if we're going to be placing, say, 3 speed humps, we're going to reach out to all of those parcels that are right next to the speed hump to confirm that they are aware of what could potentially be placed in front of their home and obtain their buy-off. And again, it goes back to if it's kind of where pardon the pun here, where the rubber meets the road. And if you have residents who, when they find out, oh, this is what's going to happen, I'm not supportive of it, that would end up stopping the process right there. So again, that also requires a 75% approval. So this is primarily one of the main reasons we like the Elk Grove process. It's community driven, but it also then takes into account those specific residents who will be impacted. Another benefit of the policy from Elk Grove is identified a number of constraints, physical constraints for us to look at and consider as we consider where do we potentially place speed control devices. So again, some of the items that we look at, all of our infrastructure, you got manholes, sewer valves, serving monuments. We also take in consideration how far are we from driveways, traffic signals, stoplights, hydrants, and all the physical constraints that are out there. We also need to consider, are there street lights in the immediate vicinity of the traffic control device? If could be a safety issue if it's not very visible, especially at night. And then again, we also want to look at a minimum separation based on the location. Other things we try to look at, the best we can, place them at property lines. I mean, it straddles that property line. We, avoid them on curves. And again, it also, in the end, the number and location really depends on engineering discretion and what the data shows from what we've received and collected. So now jumping back to our location here on Adair. So take into account the traffic data we collected and the physical constraints, the physical constraints in the neighborhood, we've come up with 4 potential locations for speed lumps. And we have, it's kind of hard to see. Is there the pointer? Anyways, there is one there's one on Adair between Fermoy and East Stockton. It's about halfway on the intersection. That's what the red line is for. And again, the purpose of that is to slow down traffic or to make traffic want to avoid that area. So that's the purpose for that one. And then also we are proposing 3 humps along Emerald Vista in Adair. And the purpose of that is we do not want the traffic to be shifted over to the other side of the intersection, especially there because that's where one of the school entrances are for Lake Canyon Elementary School. So putting the speed humps in that location, if people change their route, we also want to make sure that we keep traffic driving slow in that neighborhood as well. There is the potential for a 5th speed hump, speed lump, and that would be on Fermoy. There is the exhibit in the staff report there's a very small area on Fermoy where we could fit one if the concern of council is also speed, and again wanting the community or people who are driving to not drive through the neighborhood but then navigate through Twin Cities.
Could you just real quick, Mr. Griffin, sorry to interrupt you. What area is that small area you speak of? I'm looking at the map. Is it the green circled?
Right between the green
It
circles.
would be, let me get there.
Oh, right between the 2 green circles?
I think so, yeah.
Like where the letter Y is in Fermoy, I think.
They're pretty much where the Y is from.
Is from Y.
That
Okay,
would
I
be
see that. Got you.
That'd be the best area if we were to put one in. That would be the best area.
All right. Go ahead and proceed. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
Again, for council's consideration, there's a total of what we see as staff as 5 options. With any option, with any project, there's always a do nothing option. We talked about before extending bike lanes. Similar, matching what's in the area on the east side of Adair, and on Fermoy there in East Stockton, there's bike lanes. This is the area that doesn't have a bike lanes. And historic, and what information shows is when you stripe and install barriers, the median that we're going to talk about, number 4, and you install bike lanes, the striping and the barriers will slow traffic down when the lanes are narrower. So option 3 is what we identified tonight, is identifying the speed control devices. 4 or 5, for council's consideration. With those, if that's council's direction, we recommend going through the process of, we've already heard from the community, but let's now talk to the residents who would be directly affected and confirm that we get at least a 75% buy-off from those residents who would be directly affected. And then option 5 is any and all combinations of options 2, 3, and 4. So with that, here is the prices of the various options. So obviously the do nothing option, we will keep everything as is. There's no cost there. If we were to select, council was direct staff to implement options 2, 3, and 4, we estimate the cost could be, roughly $160,000, $170,000. And then you have, any other options in between, ranging from roughly, $35,000 to $60,000. So with that ends my presentation, and here to answer any questions.
All right, I'll tee this up first with some questions. Now that we've all got an education between lumps, bumps, and humps, but bumps weren't even on there because there technically isn't such thing as a speed bump anymore. It's just lumps and humps, right?
bump is like a lump, yes.
Yeah. So what do they call those ones that look like they're actually built on top? They're like they're like a black, and they're bolted down, sort of. What are those called?
Those would be your speed humps as well. Again, the idea, the difference between, again, the hump and the lump is you'll have gaps.
Right.
And a lump.
And the purpose of the gaps is what? Is that for emergency vehicles to be able to straddle the center?
Correct. And we would have to consult with CSD Fire to find out what their vehicle spacing is and get their feedback as far as how wide those gaps should be and where they should be.
So just a thought here on those. Obviously I knew that the gap there, there's usually the long and there's the center one that's almost like a square. That's the one that the emergency vehicles would straddle. Then there's another solid one, right? But to be honest with you, I found that I drive a full-size truck. You can almost straddle the middle one if you really try. It doesn't really feel like a speed bump if you try to straddle it. So the downfall is I feel like people swerve to try to go over the middle one to abuse it, sort of. But
and I'm sorry to interrupt there, but yes, and it's rare, but you could also have those drivers who want to avoid it entirely and then would go around and drive onto the sidewalk to avoid that as well. That's going to happen very rarely, but when it does, you're going to have people on the sidewalk who aren't expecting, traffic driving 20, 25, 30 miles an hour. It's rare, but it would happen.
Yeah. So you mentioned CSD. I know we have our fire chief in the background. I would actually, Chief, would you mind coming up? I just had some questions. Maybe you could, the council, maybe some other members would help because we would value your input as well. I noticed in Elk Grove, I was driving through, I've been in 3 different neighborhoods off of the Bruceville area, kind of off of Bilby and all that kind of whole area within the last month. And those developments, those speed bumps all over in there, right? So first of all, give us your perspective on the speed lumps versus humps with the ones that you straddle, whatever. I'd like to know your opinion on that. And then secondly, obviously CSD services all of Elk Grove, so you guys are very obviously accustomed to dealing with the speed bumps. So I'd just like to hear your take on that too.
Very well. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Felipe Rodriguez, your fire chief. So we do have several of the lumps throughout, and there are some humps as well. We prefer the lumps because they do provide a space for the fire engines to drive through. The spacing should be 8 feet. That's our standard fire engine width. It also helps out with the garbage trucks because they could just drive straight through as well. But we do have them in the residential areas that are within the 25 mile per hour zone. We don't recommend them for the larger or streets where you have a collector or an arterial, and those would be probably 35 to 45 miles an hour. We don't really recommend them there. But within a neighborhood, to provide for safety of the neighborhood and kids and things like that, we're okay with them as long as it makes sense and it's approved by the respective city councils.
There was a concern brought up last meeting about that any kind of apparatus like this is obviously going to slow down. If we were to look at lumps, for example, and give you the straddleability, do you foresee the lumps and positions, some of the positions that were shown in these diagrams, do you foresee that being a real issue with first responders in these particular streets, slowing down your response times?
Well, any traffic impediment will slow down response times, but if it allows us to get through with our fire engines, which our primary concern is to have a first responder immediately. Our ambulances are also very important, and they're a little bit narrower, but the ambulances come from all areas. The fire engines are strategically placed to provide a fast response time with all paramedic equipment and such. So our goal is to get the fire engine on scene, not only for fires, but for emergency medical incidents or other types of incidents. And as long as they can get there quickly with the lumps, that would be our priority.
So we're going to hear public comment in a minute ago, but while the chief's up here, does anybody want to ask chief questions while he's at the podium? No?
Well, thank you. I'll be here throughout, so if
all
there's
right.
any other questions.
You'll be here all night? All right, thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Depending
all
on
right.
how long we take.
Yeah. So do you have any public comment on this?
Yes. Ken
All right.
Lee. This mouse drives me nuts.
Good evening. Having put the speed bumps in Thornton and in the city of Stockton, there were pitfalls to what happened when we put them in. You have to extend them from curb to curb. Like in Thornton, they didn't, and the cars keep going around them. And so that didn't help cure it. And then I noticed in Walnut Grove, they marked the road for rumble strips on the spot that they're going to be. That way, people have time to either approve it or disapprove it. So right now, they have notices. This is where the rumble strips are going. They're little spikes that they're putting in. But the houses that are in front of the humps, if cars speed over them real fast, they'll feel it inside the house. That's what we heard from neighbors. When the cars hit them, the vibration goes right to the house. The Thornton humps, they redirected the commuters to take alternative non-residential routes. Instead of going down the street in front of the school, they were forced to go down all the way to Thornton Street to get to the 5 freeway. And so that's what happened, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Chris Brossman.
Good evening, Council. Topic I'm happy to see come up. I'm not necessarily tying it to a dare way. I'm going to tell you, I've been probably coming to council meetings, for a while, and speed bumps, humps, lumps, whatever we want to call them, have been brought up several times in the past, and it was always blamed on the fire department for that was the reason we wouldn't play in this game. So I am happy to see the council and the city actually thinking about putting them in. There are a lot of different ways that you can put them in. So they have built in, as it was brought up tonight, but they also have the roll-out ones where a little rubber and they bolt into the asphalt. I don't know how long either of them will last, to be honest with you, but I think if we looked at all of Galt, there's numerous citizens out there that want a speed bump, hump, or a lump on their street. I can think of a few of those streets that have come up before this council. I can't tell you how many times. Answer we got in the past was, we'll put a trailer on there and it will have a radar gun and it will tell you how fast you're going and that will slow you down. Yeah, that worked for a couple weeks and back to 45 everyone went. So I think we need to look at it as a city. 75% approval in a neighborhood. I believe we're still in a democracy. I don't believe that there's anything that the government does that requires 75% to approve, because nothing would ever get approved. So my concern is kind of the proposal tonight to echo Elk Grove's was that that's a speed bump or a roadblock. 2 speed controls is 75% number. I appreciate reaching out and talking to the people that are going to be affected. I don't know that I'd want a speed bump in front of my house, but reality, I don't own the street in front of my house. Do I live on a court because I don't want people speeding? Yeah. But I think most people would accept a speed bump or a hump to slow down the cars on their street. But I would definitely suggest to the council that you look at that 75% number and that's going to represent a number that is unobtainable to a large extent, because we can put us all in a room and we can talk about any topic, and I don't know where we're going to get 75% of us to raise our hands for it and say, yeah, that's what we want. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Brossman. Could you clarify for us, Mr. Griffin? I get the 75% buy-in from the people on the street, right? I get that part. The 75% approval, what does that mean? Does that mean that 3 of us out of 4 have to approve it? Is that what 75% means?
So, for example,
3 out of 4, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was stupid math right there. So what's 75% of 5 of us? That's what I'm trying to understand. What does that mean?
You would have to have at least 75%. So most of the time, again, if we straddled property lines, you would have 4 property owners. So 3 of the 4 would have to approve. So if we had, for this example
So that's
here,
what the approval means. That's nothing to do with the government body approving it.
Correct.
You're talking about, okay, because it listed 2 line items, so I thought they were different.
Again, so the intent is the 75% of the entire neighborhood for, if we're told somebody submits, for this example, if we received the request and it was from East Stockton to Adair, to Fermoy, we would have to have 75% of all the parcels. And then when it got to the point of installing them, for this example here, where we're recommending 4 locations, generally speaking, they're all straddling property lines. So in that situation, we'd have to have 12 out of 16 vote yes.
Do
for those.
they typically always straddle property lines? Is that how they work? Okay.
Not always, generally yes.
Okay.
The best we can. Again,
Quick question.
looking at
Same
driveways
subject.
and other matters.
So 75%, if somebody doesn't want to participate, that's going to be a no.
Correct.
Okay. I don't like that.
So I counted the houses on your map between Stockton and Fermoy, and there are 14. So that means 75% is 10 and a half out of the 14. Would have to say yes to putting that one speed bump on a dare between Fermoy and East Stockton.
No, that would be to start the process. If we had 14, we would have to have 11 of the 14 say, we want you to look at our neighborhood.
So
And
75% within how much proximity of where the speed bump's going to be?
Correct. So that would be step one, where if we get a neighborhood request, and for the example was from East Stockton to Fermoy, and there's 14 homes, we'd have to have 11 out of 14 say, we want the city to look at a speed control device.
Okay. So
And then we look at that data, look at that request, collect our data, and then we would go out, reach back out to that community, the ones that would be specifically affected. And then let's just say for this example, if we put, one speed lump straddling property lines, we would reach out to those 4 specific parcels. And 3 of those 4 would have to say, yes, we want it for it to be, for us to move forward with putting on a schedule to install. So if we had 2 say no,
right.
That
So
goes
what's
away.
the proximity though? Like he was saying this many houses, these count, how far
A
off?
city block, is that what you're
Yeah,
looking at?
what's the
City block?
proximity?
So on the form, it identifies the road and in your bounds of the roadway. So on the form where the neighborhood then obtains the signatures, you would identify, again, as using Adair as an example, they would say Adair Way with your cross streets of East Stockton and Fermoy.
Right. I'm
And
just
then-
trying to identify, you need 75% of people to be on board with it, but 75% of what's the starting number? Like how far away from the speed bump do you go? Because if the guy's down at East Adair and he goes, no, I don't want the speed bump down there on West Adair. How far away do you not have to be or be before you have say in that 75%? Do you get what I'm saying?
Cross street to cross
So it's
street.
the
Cross
a
street to
city
cross
block.
street. So yeah, so again, it goes, why we like the Elk Grove process, it's a methodical 2-step process. One, it's looking generally at the entire neighborhood. Does the entire neighborhood buy into a speed control device?
Right.
Don't
That's why
know
I'm
where
trying to
it's
get clarification because I hate for it, like the whole neighborhood, we have all the Adair people come in here and they're upset because they fell short by one house because the house cutoff was at the corner or this guy didn't quite live in the corner. You know what I'm saying? It could come to that. I'm just trying to figure out. So it's block to block. So East Stockton Boulevard to Fermoy would be the speed bump on that side of it. It would be all those people, 75% have to commit.
So that would be to step one, where we actually would then receive their request and look at it.
Right, okay.
And then the step 2
Okay.
is another 75%. And those would be then a subset of that 14, the ones that are specifically impacted by having it in front of their home.
Gotcha.
And again, those are the numbers that came from the Elk Grove policy. So again, we liked their policy and we thought that was a fair threshold. So we're just emulating the policy, the numbers from their policy.
And so if you have 100%
We
that
go-
want it,
Yep.
then it still doesn't mean they're necessarily going to get it.
I'm sorry. Councilmember, say that
Because
again?
they want it on their street doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to get it on their
Correct. If we have 100% on the street that want it,
The final decision is.
the final
city
decision goes to
council.
those that are directly impacted.
Right, but doesn't city council then have to sign off on it, or?
The
is
way
it
the
an
policy,
automated?
yeah. So the way the policy is written, it's written to be a staff level discretion. Again, that's one of the things that's up for discussion tonight. If council would prefer the policy state every request after we analyze it and come up with a recommendation, we present it to council. That is an option. The reason we did it as a staff level is we could probably have one or two of these come in almost every meeting.
Yeah.
And that just becomes very cumbersome. And that's something that we could really, once council gives us direction on a policy, that's the intent of the policy, is that at a staff level, then we would implement it. Of course, if we think there's, extenuating circumstances that would provide a reason for one specific instance to come back to council, we could still do that. But the idea, again, of it being a staff, council approves the program, and then we as staff implement that program to.
Yeah. I just want to make a general statement before we continue this conversation. It is important to note, as Mr. Brosnan made me think of this, that it is important that this policy, obviously accompanies anything we talk about with the Dareway, because without a policy, because he said it and he's right. I've been coming to council meetings years before I was ever on the city council, and not once have I ever seen there even be a discussion about doing anything with speed lumps past somebody speaking at that microphone, ever. This is really unprecedented ground, I can tell you right now, in the city of Galt. It really is. But with that said, I can tell you that the number one complaint, top two, it's always either number one or number two at any given time, unless there's some other issue going on, is that I hear as a council member is somebody speeding in my neighborhood. That is top two complaint in my 7 years in office, top two all the time. So, but we don't want to open Pandora's box, and I get that, because you're right. We could just be inundated with requests, right? So we have to have a policy. I agree with Mr. Brosman that 75% seems steep, but I also am leery that if we make it too easy, that we're just going to literally have an entire city of speed bumps. So that's just my initial thoughts. I just want to throw that out there to the public.
Yep. And if I can add one thing I didn't touch on too is where this funding would come from. We have the staff report briefly touched on. We have a pavement management plan that we recently updated. We need to spend $4 to $5 million a year to keep up our PCI. We're nowhere near that at our funding level, and to install speed, whatever we decide to install, that's where that budget would come from. So
We already don't have.
although it wouldn't $12,000-$15,000 per speed lump doesn't seem like a lot, but now if we're installing 10 a year and our budget's $2 million, you're taking away 10% of the pavement maintenance program.
I agree. I don't want to create a policy that just because every street wants one, they get one. I think Adair Fermoy has an issue, and it's specific to the Walmart and the cars being directed there.
And there's other streets, Mr. Grosso, that
There
probably
there
were
may
too.
be some others, yes.
But we just got to make sure it doesn't get out of hand, right?
I just know, right, there's some neighborhoods where every single street may say they want one. And it's not necessary.
So, Council, if I may add, Mayor and Council, that there were other options to consider for Adair prior to going to speed bumps. So the council obviously can do what it wishes, and they can edit the program if they desire. But there were other measures that could be taken to see if they work to slow traffic on Adair and other streets as well. And interestingly enough, and you probably all instinctively know this, many of the places in the city that have these collector roads, they were underserved by a lot of population because the city really wasn't built out. Those roads were a little bit wider and a lot easier to speed. So some of the more simpler items like striping and islands could accomplish what you're looking for. And in worst case scenario, you could try that first before going to this option. So something to consider, that is still on the table. We just brought back the speed bump issue based on the request from council.
Mr. Griffin, what's install speed control devices? Can you please clarify what that encompasses?
So that would be, we reach out to a contractor who does a fair amount of work for us, and we asked him, hey, if you install, a speed hump, a speed lump, what would the rough price be? And they gave us, a price of $15,000 to $18,000 per location. And of course, the more you put in, you get an economy of scale. But that would be the installation. That consists of all the striping, the signage, and the installation. There's traffic control.
But number three, the speed lump, humps, whatever, that falls under number three. That's what
That's
I'm
number 3. Yeah. So if
I thought it was different. I thought it was some other speed control devices that were outside of speed lumps and humps that we were talking about.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
So yeah, so the recommendation if we were to look at the data, if we decided to put in, if council directed 4, you would have a price between 60 and 72. But that's, again, like I said, striping, signage, traffic control, and the device itself.
Okay. And then if we decided to add that 5th one, it would be up to possibly 90.
Correct. You could add another $15,000 to $18,000.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $75,000 to $90,000.
Yeah. I did want, we gave the fire chief an opportunity. I wanted to make sure that we also included the police chief in this conversation because he's the other side of our emergency response.
And so on this issue specifically, because the fire trucks are the harder objects to move through because they're so big, we follow behind the fire department in their recommendations. I don't have a concern necessarily for, what model is used, the humps, the lumps, or the bumps. We can maneuver the vehicles quickly over wherever we need to be as long as we have access to that roadway.
I have some questions, and short of starting a Dr. Seuss book with lumps, humps, and bumps, whatever. First of all, I almost feel like this policy is kind of the cart before the horse, because if I'm remembering, I did read it. If I'm remembering correctly, shouldn't there be, speed checks on it, traffic control, traffic counts, and all of that kind of stuff that would first make that street eligible to even have this policy trigger? Is that what the plan is?
Yes. So when step 1, if we had the community, in this example, if we had 11 of the 14 ask for us to evaluate the situation, one of the things that we would do is go out and collect speed data. And that would tell us, is there really a speeding issue? Is there a high volume issue? What issues are there? Because we may, after we collect the data, we may find out that the 85th percentile is, pick a number, is 26 miles an hour. Well, that's your speed limit. So that would be part of that initial step 1 process.
Shouldn't that be outlined too, that you have, if it's a 25-mile-an-hour road, that threshold, once we do the traffic study, the threshold is that average or whatever that median speed is, has to be 5 or 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, whatever it is, or volume, it has to be 2,000 cars or more. I mean, I feel like those things need to be set almost before this policy, because if we put this policy right now, you're right, everybody in town could come and ask to put a speed bump in front of not their house, but their neighbors. So we need to establish what would even allow them to move forward with triggering this policy.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I think we need to address, or maybe staff needs to address that. The other thing, and I understand Mr. Brasman's comment, the 75% does seem high to me. However, we do have another number that is used in elections, and it's a 2/3 majority. And so that takes us down to 66%. Maybe that will be a little bit more comfortable. I'm just throwing that out there. I would be okay going with 75, but 66 I'm actually okay with too. But here's my other issue. What if legitimately you have an Adair Way where there's 5,000 cars going down there, and most of them are going 45 miles an hour in this 25-mile-an-hour zone? It is very evident that we need something. But the people on the street, they want it, but the 4 people that's going to affect say no. and every 4 people where you try to put that speed bump says no. Does that limit the city from saying, sorry, you're going to have this because we need control on that street? So because I don't see anything about the city being able to outweigh those 4 homes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can see that being a real problem because people are going to go, oh, I think we need a stop sign here, but I don't want it to be in front of my. I could totally see that the NIMBYs would be like, yeah, I agree, but I don't want it in front of mine. And then looking at these maps, there's only certain areas where you can actually have them. It can be very limited. I'll tell you what I have a bigger problem with, actually, to be honest with you. I remember thinking back about, and I know none of them are here, so I'm going to tell them, but hearing presentations from people like Mr. Clarkson and Mr. Winkler back when I was on the Public Safety Committee, and I remember just shaking my head with the whole, and this no offense to, because I know it's not a policy you guys created in Public Works, but the whole traffic study with the 85th percentile. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what that means. If you have a street that's 25 miles an hour, but you guys do a traffic study and that say that, I don't know, 1,000 cars go down that street. If 850 of those cars are traveling at 50 miles an hour, basically, as the way the law is, they're saying that's a suitable speed and that's acceptable, correct?
In a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
Even if a residential neighborhood where we have
Because that's how
homes
the 85th percentile works, right?
It is, there are exceptions as an example on a residential street where there's homes on both sides. I'm just hypothetical. Let's say the 85th percentile was 100 miles an hour. If there's homes on both sides, that is overridden and it is 25 miles as opposed to 25 mile an hour speed limit.
So what I'm getting at is let's say that I'm going to pick a street over where Mr. Brusman lives. Let's say Emerald Oak. Okay, Emerald Oak is kind of a highway, right? It's a thoroughfare people cut between A Street and C Street. And you could do a traffic study on that street, and yep, there's a lot of cars that go down the street. A couple thousand a day, and the speed limit's 25. But we found the 85th percentile is 45. 45 miles an hour for that street is a dangerous speed. But if it falls in the 85th percentile, then it's deemed okay. So you would have a street, you could have hypothetically, if that's the trigger point for them to even have a request to put in, you're going to have very few requests are going to beat that threshold. That's just my opinion.
Well, but he did say since it's a residential street, it's 25 miles an hour, that takes over that 85th percentile.
It does.
Unless you go to McFarland, there's only houses on one side.
Correct. Yep.
Oh,
So I'll give an example.
And they
We did
drive
it-
100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So yes, we did a recent speed survey on Amador, east of Carroll, because
Okay.
you only have homes on one side. That we had to be based on
From the highway going east.
From the highway going east, because there's only homes on the north side. We have to go in the 85th percentile. But now, if you would have, when we turn north on Amador, because you have homes on both sides, that becomes 25 because that's the way the code's written. If you have homes on both sides, it's 25 regardless of what the 85th percentile speed, as long as there's homes on both sides of the street.
I am just concerned that's going to be a. There needs to be a mechanism, right? They can't, because you're right. You can't just have like 100 people submitting for their street to be whatever. But I think that I just don't know if I like that to be the first bump to get over. I think that should be in conjunction. I think that the speed study should be something that's also has to be done along with the submittal. Like when somebody requests, then a speed study's done. I don't like that they do a speed study and then based on that, then they say no or yes to the thing. I think it should be all part of the process.
Well, they can put it in, but I think in order for it to move forward after the speed study and the traffic volume and all the whole traffic evaluation, if that doesn't meet whatever standards, and so we don't have those standards, that's what I'm looking for, then they can proceed with the policy.
You know what I like better, honestly? I would think it would be better if we had, and I don't know about the 66 or 75. I mean, we could talk about that. I'm open-minded to that, but something like what the policy like as Elk Grove has with some kind of approval, such as we've been showed, traffic study so that we have data showing how many cars and speed, so we have that. And then all of that process, if it's turned in by the people that live on Emerald Oak Drive, for example, right? So that they go through all that process, and then all that comes to the council, and it's a council decision and not just a staff level decision, because I think there's instances where the council would say, I still don't think it's a good idea. I know that wouldn't sit well with those residents, but I just like the council being the firewall on that instead of the staff.
100%.
I think if you have all three of those things in place,
Can I add just a little something to that maybe? Is when we get those initial traffic studies, like you're talking about, that we involve the public safety committee at some point?
I was just going to suggest that maybe that's the third piece that goes to public safety, and then they make a recommendation so that we hear what they have to say too, and then we can involve them. I think that's a good piece too.
Agree.
So, I hate to interrupt again, but I'm trying to get a handle on what type of traffic study that would be required. What I would worry about is okay, who's paying for that? What's the delay on it? That we already know, if we're doing a speed control program like speed bumps, you have some costs there, that's already going to eat into road funds that go to maintenance and repair.
So your concern is if we have, between now and next year, we have 20 streets that people turn in an application, right? And now you're saying we have to then conduct 20 traffic studies, and that's cost, right? No, I understand. I get you.
Well, but what's better to have just random speed bumps all over the city that may or may not have been necessary traffic study-wise?
True.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the money's, I understand that. I am still concerned about if the community members, the streets, the NIMBYs don't want it in front of their house and there is a need for it, the city's got to have some sort of outside of this policy,
that's why I
in.
like it coming to council.
Right, that
we
part
have
I
the
think
authority to
can come
override.
to council, then maybe staff brings that. But the rest of it, I do think we need to set a policy that staff can follow so it doesn't have to come to us. But on circumstances like that, or if a neighbor wants to appeal it and say, and it becomes an appeal, and then staff brings it to us because he could only get 74% of his neighbors to go for it, and he wants it appealed, and then
I think the direction I think what I'm hearing from everybody here is that you kind of have direction. I think we need to draft up something that has a combination of what we're talking about, and you come back to us and think, here's what we've heard from council. This is kind of what we're thinking what the policy would be. We hear that council wants to be involved in the ultimate decision. We think there should be maybe some kind of appeal process if staff just shoots it down and said, no, this isn't a good, whatever. And then also I think the public safety committee needs to be involved, and a traffic study of some sort needs to be involved. So you have all these different things. I think some kind of policy, drafted it, maybe come back with here's a couple ways. We could do this as a policy, or we could do this, and then we can fine tune it. Because I don't think we're going to agree on a policy tonight. That's what I'm thinking. Am I wrong?
I like it. Yep.
Okay.
Can
I just chime in just from our policing perspective? And I think the Public Works Department does a good job on their speed analysis because they pull our data and they look at, how many times we've been out there, what the accidents are, so you have a full picture of that. But I would hope that we would have something other than speeding and speed bumps, and that there are options in between there, as I think the city manager alluded to, because sometimes there are small corrections that can occur that are not as costly and not as controversial, maybe if you don't have 75% or whatever your threshold is, that we can solve at the staff level quicker. Sometimes it is, and it's only a short period of time, but sometimes it is this speed trailers, sometimes at the beginning of the school year to retrain all the parents, it's extra patrol, and so, having speed bumps be permanent is the only solution. I think, as getting involved in having side conversations with the public director, like to solve some of those problems before we go to public safety and then you.
And I think having something in a drafted policy that states something like, has there been other measures that have been taken before it's come forward for speed bumps? What other measures have been taken? And then people go, well, on X date, we put out a radar trailer. On this other date, we put out a radar trailer. We actually did traffic enforcement. And then after all that, what was the outcome? Was there something like that? I think those things, it's very important. Yeah. And honestly, look, I like the council being the kind of the actually say all, because it might come and say, you know what? No, but I think I would just want to see PD do more enforcement out there, or we want to do something. Maybe just come a different direction. We don't just, I'm not saying we're just going to be divvying out speed bumps like we're throwing out playing cards or something.
No, I think the chief was absolutely correct. And that is one thing that I think is missing on this is that I think all of the other measures that we've talked about, does the street have the bike lane striping? No, it doesn't. Let's do that first. Okay, it already has that. Does it have whatever the other, does it have the entryway median or whatever some of those other slowing solutions are? Have we tried all of those things? Are they all in play? No, they're not. Okay, now let's see how we can mitigate this, if we can do this with speed bumps. But I think we need to have that list of the checkoff list. This is one of those times where, checking the box is, it's a good thing. Let's check the box that it has the striping. Let's check the box that we've done all the other slowing measures.
But I also want to make sure that we don't make this process too so cumbersome that it's just that we're going to go back to just being the city that we were before for 15 years. We would never even consider.
Well, not us. This would be at the staff level before it even needs to come to us. It's good that the council's, this is my opinion, it's good that the council wants to be involved in it, but we have staff for a reason. That's right. They're the professionals evaluating all of these things that we've asked them to evaluate. In my opinion, we should only be seeing anything like an appeal, or if staff wants to appeal, hey, look, we can't get any of these neighbors online, and this street really needs it. You've been hearing about this problem. This is the hard decision that council needs to make, to override that 75% or the lack of 75% and say, sorry guys, this is a safety issue. I know you don't want to bump in front of your house, but the entire neighborhood needs that safety. That's our decision.
But we also don't want to undermine the process of, right now we're talking about a policy where a neighborhood can come forward and say, we have a concern and we'd like to have something done, and they could submit something. If what I'm hearing from you is we're saying that staff makes those discretionary decisions before we even hear about it, I can tell you right now, if you have someone like Mark Clarkson in Public Works, you're never going to hear a single peep out of anybody.
That's what the policy is for. They have to follow
Chris
the
laughs,
policy.
but I'm right. I'm just saying that's the problem.
But then they can appeal it, but that's why that we have to make sure the policy is in place, because the staff has to, they have to follow the policy too. If a community member comes and says, hey, Mr. Griffin is so mean, he's not, he didn't check all these boxes.
Well, that's what I'm afraid
and
of,
then
is
they can,
hearing from a community member that says, every time we talk to staff, they just say, no, 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 no. And I've been trying for 6 months, so now I'm coming to you,
it's
Mr.
a
Mayor.
policy. So if they've done it, and granted, I don't have any doubts that Mr. Griffin will not be, he's not going to be the bad guy. Maybe the next person is, I don't know, down the line, but that's why the policy is there. That's what gives council the power over staff. You didn't follow the policy. When that first person comes up to council or comes up to you at the coffee shop and says, I did everything, I checked all the boxes, we've done everything, and they're still not doing anything, that's where we become.
So we think the direction is fairly muddy, and is it muddy enough that we kind of, we're looking for you to bring back a policy, tweak a policy, give us some options on a policy that we can, give us maybe a couple options on what we can look at. We can whittle it down a little more and come to a conclusion. My question would be to the council tonight, though, is are we going to not make any decision on Adair Way based on this? Are we going to wait for this to come back, this policy to go into place, and then make the people on Adair go through this whole process and all that stuff? Is that what we're looking at doing, or are we talking about doing something with Adair Way tonight? Are we going to because I'm ready to actually, for this one, I'm ready tonight to make a suggestion about what I think we should do with Adair Way. I don't know. I want to wait, and I don't want to wait 6 more months to do something like going through this whole process.
I support that.
Yeah, I think we can make the Adair Way decision, but we still have, use it as a test subject, I guess,
Right,
for that
right.
75%.
That's what I'm saying.
Have a feeling that the Adair Way people are going to be.
Oh, no.
they've been asking for it.
I'm saying we talk about what we all would like to see happen in Adair, and then we tell staff that we need to go out, because obviously we're not going to do nothing on Adair until people on Adair are going to sign off on it. So that this policy would have to be in place.
But I do think, unfortunately, I'm sorry, this is me, and I know we're talking dollars, but I do think we need to have some of those other things in place, like the bike lanes. Anything that we're going to require of any other street to trigger this, it has to be done with Adair Way. And I don't think it's a bad idea to have an island at the mouth of Adair at East Stockton. I think that's a good idea. Whether or not I get my trees, that's another situation.
You will.
But, I've got Chris's support, so. And then the striping, because it's just that half of Adair, right, that doesn't have striping. Let's put that in while we're still, because it's going to take time to go put those speed humps in. So, I don't know.
I think, I don't, to me, I think the bike laning is not going to do nothing, in my opinion. I'm open-minded, but I think it's a waste of time personally. But I do agree with the entrance island. I think that's because one of the main complaints they had is people speeding around the corner coming in there, and I know I've seen it. And I do think that the layout of the speed lumps, roughly, you got a pretty good layout. I think that there should definitely be one on Fermoy. That's just my opinion. So the ones on Emerald Vista, one or two, I don't know. But I definitely am, I'm just saying right now, I do support doing some speed lumps with the straddle for the fire equipment and I think that we should, a minimum should be one on each end of Adair and one on Fermoy. But I also support the island of the entrance. That's what I would like to see at minimum, is a combination of those things. That's what I'm throwing out there just to start the discussion. So anybody else can jump in and tell me what they think. Bonnie says she supports, but she also would like to see striping with the bike lanes.
Yeah, I support we move forward if we can.
What would you like to see, Mr. Vice Mayor?
I don't know how much it can be affected with this striping, but, I'm talking about this issue is already go through the safety, it's already go through the council. And we already know what the public work department recommendation, I know what the police department recommendation in the safety, I was in the safety, and I know what the fire chief safety, but council wants something on that place. So I think we have to make a decision. I know this make a policy, but particularly that place, we have to make a decision. What we're gonna do, otherwise this can be dragging maybe a year or 2 years. So I'm whatever the mayor recommending, I'm going to second on that.
Would you like to add anything, Mr. Reed?
No, my one question was going to be for the interim city attorney, is what does it look like for us if we move forward with installing these traffic devices or whatever our options are up there, and then we put a policy in place, and now, the police chief gets his speed control devices, but everyone else in the city now has to follow this policy. Should we not set the policy first and then move forward? I know it's going to delay everything, but
That's completely up to you. You don't have a policy currently. An issue's been identified on this stretch of road. You've got some recommendations from staff. You're free to decide on those options
Well,
now.
what I'm suggesting is not to forego any kind of whatever. I definitely think that the percentage of agreement, buy-in from the people on the street and whatever, that stuff has to be in place for Adair Way. I'm just saying I don't want to wait for the whole process of the policy to come back and all that, then back on consent and all that stuff before we start at least moving the ball forward on Adair.
Yeah.
I think the narrative for that is we learned our lesson. We don't want to have to go through this with every single request. So we're setting up a policy so that we don't have to be here for 5 meetings talking about a street.
And then my next question was for Director Griffin we talked about the entrance island. And since the property to the north, their driveways are very close to the intersection, does that cause an issue with us putting in an island right there with their driveways? I mean, does the position of their driveways inhibit us from installing one of those islands?
If that was their sole driveway, then yes. I believe that parcel has 2 driveways. So you might have a situation where they come to you and say, you've impacted my property value and I want to be compensated for losing a driveway.
So I don't
they
think
have
we're going to
2
have that problem.
driveways.
I think obviously the 2 people would have to buy in, properties on each side, right? I think we heard from both people that live in both those houses were the ones that spoke in public comment. So they're either going to say, yeah, I want that thing because I was here complaining, saying do something, or one of them is going to say, no, I don't want that. And then we don't put the island in because we obviously have that buy-in from both sides, right? Just like we do with the speed
This is where
bumps.
my issue is. If the city and engineering and PD and fire feel like something is the right thing to do, then the city has to have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless obviously it's going to make him not be able to use the driveway at all.
So I think the direction, just to not to kick this dead horse anymore here. So I think the direction on coming back with some policy drafts is clear enough, right? It's clear as mud, okay? And then on the Adair Way policy, I'm just going to push this forward, and I'm going to say that I would make a motion to have staff give direction to staff to look at implementing the speed lumps in the places that you noted, per our tentative policy, using those per that, and also the entrance island. So my motion is to look at an entrance island and the speed lumps, but as per the policy procedure. So Adair East, Adair West, Fermoy to the north, and the 2 on Emerald Vista. That would be what I'm suggesting.
I will second that, even though I don't get my bike lanes, that's fine. But I do have a quick question. Are there regulations, do we have to have signs posted for those speed bumps?
That's all part of your price. What you have, the standard would require striping. It would require signage, in addition to actually installing whatever speed control device. And that's all, that was what our contractor told us. On average, that would be all part of that price.
But I'm more concerned, I know I should be concerned more about the money, but I know, because I was one of these when I first moved into town, that city came, and I lived on Meadowview, and they came and put a kids at play sign of some sort in the middle of my property. Well, not mine, I know that there's the easement, but instead of putting it on a property line, it should go on a property line, correct, rather than in the middle of someone's frontage.
Generally speaking, yes, but again, it depends on where that speed control device is located. We have to make sure that we put the sign sufficiently far enough away to notify the traveling public there is, a speed lump coming. We couldn't.
So that'll be a complaint. That'll be another education that people are going to have to know. It's one thing for the 4 to have the speed lump on their property line, but those signs could be in the middle of someone's front yard frontage. And I'm not saying we don't do it, but they need to know that too, that you may have a sign right in the middle of your frontage.
Are you sure? Because I don't remember seeing any signage in those neighborhoods I drove through. The lumps were painted, but I didn't see any signage. Really?
Yes, there are signs in each direction warning drivers that there is a speed control device.
The only one that notices them is the people that have the house there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and again, there's a sign. There's
Just is.
there's
Yeah.
That's the way I see Elk Grove.
Well, like I said, I think we can go round and round with all the little details, but
Can I ask one point of clarification from a staff? I heard about the bike lanes, but I think we identified a void that lacks consistency on those bike lanes in that neighborhood. Does this preclude us at a staff level from not just going ahead and tying in the bike lanes on West Stockton through Adair to the rest of Adair? Because those are already in place.
I think we should.
Yeah, so I've just because I know we weren't worried about that in terms of the issue, but I think we should be consistent.
And I'm not suggesting,
yeah.
I'm just saying that that's not going to control the speed issue at hand, but if that's an issue outside of that needs to be completed, I agree.
Yeah, because bike safety and pedestrian safety are a component of the vehicle safety issue.
So I amend my motion with the addition of what the chief just said, where we continue the continuity of the bike lane striping that's already partially done. But again, is there any confusion on what my motion is? I got a second. If your second still stand?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to just get one clarifying point. You're directing staff to work through the 75% process, the two-phase 75% process.
Well, I'm asking him to work through the process of whatever policy we end up implementing. It could be a 66%, 75. We haven't determined the policy.
So you are saying hold off on this until your policy is adopted?
I personally would just say, let's move forward with Adair outside of the policy. We can do, so if your motion is basically to do options 2, 3, and 4, this is for Adair, and then we will suss out that policy outside of this Adair. I mean,
we're not going to go to people Adair and ask them if they want it?
Amend your motion to ask that staff connects with those 4 properties at each location and get their consensus.
That the consensus have to be, we can't just put speed, they have to, I mean, it's doubtful that they're going to say no, the people of Adair Way, but
I think I know. Oh, sorry.
I would say I would amend my motion to include that we use the suggested policy of the 75% and the 4 people that, whatever, that we go to Adair Way and we see where we get with that.
And
Now, look, here's the thing. If the Adair Way people, if that dies and we couldn't get 75% buy-in from Adair, or the 4 people say no, and then we end up working through this policy and come up with a policy that has a 66% threshold, and then they can go back and try again, then so be it. But there has to be some kind of something with the people on Adair. They have to have a say in it. Because I haven't spoke to every person on Adair about this. I've only heard from a handful. I'm assuming the whole street. And I've had people tell me, oh yeah, my whole street, they're on board with me. But I haven't heard from those people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, clarifying question then too, something that we as staff and put in the policy together hadn't thought of. Brought up the point of the signs are going to be on, in front of people's homes. Would the survey also include not only the properties where we would put the speed control device, but also where we would put the signage? So you would then have, for every speed control device, you would actually have 6 residents we'd have to reach out to. And so to hit a 75% threshold, you have to have 5 out of 6.
you know what?
No, what?
If the people 75% say they want the speed bumps, and the 4 people say, I'm fine with having the speed bump, then I think we just put the bumps in and we put the signs in. If somebody's upset about the sign, it's like, hey, you wanted the speed bump. You don't want the speed bump now because you're going to get a sign in someone's yard? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, just getting into the weeds on it now. It's like,
Sorry to interrupt, but I have a quick question. I don't know if it's Chief or Mr. Griffin that can answer. My understanding is in lieu of a sign, you have the painted street basically identifying it as a bump. So you don't necessarily have a sign.
well, that's what I thought, but he
that
said
you
no.
just have the paint on the street saying bump, and it's far enough in advance where you're hitting it. So in that case, you wouldn't need the sign, but I need verification on that. I don't know.
I look at the police chief, I think we need to double check vehicle code to see what's
Okay.
required. I don't know off the top of my head if just the pavement marking is sufficient. It may
All right.
be. We'd have to.
So to
look into
clarify
that.
my motion, my motion is,
Before you do that, I want to just throw one more wrinkle on this.
okay,
Do we want an affirmative yes from 75% or a no from more than 25%? What if somebody doesn't respond? Or we just can't get in contact with somebody?
No.
under
That was
because
my question.
because we don't have a policy in place right now, I think we need to go by what's tentative, which would be an affirmative in the 75%. And if they don't get that threshold, then they can come lobby us when we're in a meeting where we're crafting that policy, and they can try to lower that threshold and you know what I'm saying, they can try to get us
Yeah,
to
but
do
he's
that.
asking 75% response of the respondents, because you might have someone who just doesn't respond.
Right, that was my question.
Right,
If
so if they
somebody
don't
doesn't want to
respond, that's,
participate, it's
do
a
you
no.
assume yes or no? So,
What do you guys want to do? I would say 75% of the people that are contacted that respond.
that
So
respond.
that was one of the initial
weird that
things
you
that
wouldn't
I
respond.
that I reached out to the city manager and Director Griffin about when I originally read this, was that exact question. And my thoughts on it are, look, it's 75% of the total people that are there, because they're all affected. Just because you don't want to fill out something, I mean, that's obviously a no, that you don't support the project. So just because they didn't respond is not a yes, or
a
it's-
no?
You
Right,
can
it's a
make
no.
you can make it a yes, and if their response you need to respond no if you're against it. And if there's no response, that's a yes.
If I may interrupt and give a suggestion, so the way the form is written is there has to be a signature for the property owner. So if there's no signature, we're assuming they're not supportive of of whatever control device that would be recommended.
I would say go with that for now. Yep. Like I said, if they don't get it, then they need to go have a heart-to-heart with their neighbors, to have their neighbors come forward and either give it a yes or no, or they need to lobby the city council to, when we're crafting that policy, to have a lower threshold possibly. But I think for now, if we want Adair to move forward, we need to do it under that policy, which the way it was described has to be 75% of all total property owners, has to be in the affirmative. Is that clear, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we've clarified your motion, I think.
All right, and I have a
Proceed with
second
that.
on that motion still?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there any alternative any alternative no? Okay, all right, can we have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Pratton,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Now, I know the people of Adair wanted their road closed. They're probably not going to be that happy, but they should be celebrating because this is like a huge milestone for those people. Hopefully they can do their work on their end now and get it over into the end zone. All right, moving on. Communication, do we have any this evening?
None this evening.
City Clerk's report.
None.
Comments by staff.
Yes, Parks and Rec Director Armando Solis.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody about the IDC event this Friday. I'm still crossing my fingers. It looks like it's going to be in the 80s instead of the hundreds for us. Yes. We have our Ton Run ceremony starting at 7:30 a.m. right here in front of City Hall. Our Independence Day parade is at 9:30. We already have 71 participants registered, so we anticipate over 80. We typically have 55. So it'll probably be the biggest parade we've ever had.
Wow.
We have the special edition of the Saturday Market on the 4th of July, so it'll be on the 4th Street Promenade, and that starts at 9 a.m. We have the Independence Day Family Fun event on Veterans Field, which is at 6, has a kid zone and music. Our fireworks in the pool starts at 7 p.m. We're almost sold out. I think we only have 20 tickets left. And our City of Galt fireworks show will start promptly at 9:30. So I hope to see some of you there in the parade at least. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
And then,
All right.
Assistant City Manager Mendez.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Briefly wanted to just give you a quick update that we have reached a milestone with our Simmerhorn Ranch commercial project. We officially have a submission from the Galt Ranch developer, and it does include a tentative subdivision map for 21 parcels that will be subdivided for development. Also includes an architectural package, a master site plan, a landscape plan, and we hope to have the entire project before Planning Commission probably around September, October, once the environmental is completed. And so the CUPs for Maverick and for the ancillary drive-through uses will all be included as part of that Galt Ranch development. So it's been a long time coming. If you have any questions, let me know. That's it.
Public Works Director Griffin.
Yes. Not to steal too much more thunder from Armando, so he was nice just to let me talk about the skate park. So the meeting Thursday night was a huge success. We had a good turnout, and all of the members of the public who commented very articulate, very respectful. We jokingly said, too bad all of our public meetings aren't this kind and refreshing. So it was a good turnout, good discussion, and we got some very good feedback from the community.
Police Chief Kalinowski.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So Friday's fireworks night, and so we will be debuting and enforcing our new city ordinance regarding the host provisions and the activity using illegal fireworks in the community with support of code enforcement and fire. This is our first run through, and so with that, I expect to talk to the city manager about equipment needs afterwards. Actually, we've already had a preliminary discussion about that. So, because we are borrowing some equipment from Elk Grove to make this go on Friday night. We will post some stuff on social media regarding the excessive use of 911 during this time period, because we do get overrun with fireworks complaints on the 911 line, and it's problematic for our staff, and we will get overrun with the 911 calls to fireworks, and those fireworks calls do stack. Even though we have full deployment throughout the day because we have so many events of our staff, we will send out some reminders related to that. But we look forward to another great 4th of July. Then lastly, I'll put this on the table only because we have this meeting and next meeting before National Night Out, which is August 5th. You're meeting early, I believe, on an item, but we will meet at the police department. For those interested, I will send out an email to each of you about riding with the police department for the event from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll be going to Meadowview, the sports complex, and community park as we have in past years. And so we have our CSOs working hard on that program with lots of donations. And we look forward to that. And so again, that is on August 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. And I think you've probably seen some stuff from the city, and we'll continue to post up into that event. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
And that concludes staff comments.
All right. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Moving on to last item, comments by city council members on future future agenda items. Mr. Pratton.
Just say I'm looking forward to the 4th of July events. Sounds like a great setup. That's all I have.
All right. Vice Mayor Sandhu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Give me the opportunity. Oh, thank you for the staff. Thank you for the public comment. Thank you for everybody come to this council, Mayor. And that's all tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Reed.
First, I want to say thank you to all the staff, but I know Armando's big day is Friday, and I know that I've seen him multiple 4th of Julys out even in the street directing traffic. So thank you for everything you do. It's a big day, and we all look forward to it. The second thing is I wanted to express my condolences to the department, the coworkers, and the families of the 2 firefighters that were recently killed in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. This has been weighing on me heavy all week, and so I just wanted to. I mean, everybody knows how much I support our public safety. So these people put their lives in harm's way to protect all of us. And unfortunately, tragic things like this happen, and I didn't want it to go unnoticed. That's it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, a few things. I did want to thank our speakers, especially Joan. I'm very happy to hear that the Commission on Aging is moving forward, and I'm excited for the new programs that the walking in the parks and getting the seniors out and probably socializing when they wouldn't be doing that, and then facilitating the meeting with SMUD and then putting your own time out there to meet with seniors that may be in need or may just need to chat. So I really appreciate that. And I did want to thank Mr. Lee for bringing positive kudos and bringing a positive light and not just complaints or issues. So I do appreciate that. Just a really quick, since you brought up Summerhorn, I probably should have asked you during your comments with the new law that was signed about CEQA. Does that just address residential, or is it going to address commercial development as well? Because it just said development from what I read real briefly. Do you know?
We are waiting on a debrief from our city attorney on that. And so this question was raised already today, this morning, by a residential developer. The project does require a rezone and a general plan amendment, so they did not qualify, but we are waiting for a full sort of explanation on that law and sort of how that affects some of our projects.
But just residential then?
Residential and mixed use.
And mixed use, okay. Okay, I had gotten a text from my son. I hadn't even seen it yet. I got a text from my son. He said, "Your Summerhorn Ranch problems are solved." Anyway, wishful thinking. And the other thing, it just, Chief, it came to my mind, you have the AI program that answers. Is there any way to reprogram it specific? So if it says something along the lines, if this is a call about fireworks, they push 3 and leave the street and whatever, rather than it having to go to a human. Anyway, just a thought was all that went through.
Yeah, so we will have that. I believe we have that program up and running on the 4th of July, and that would occur if they were on the business line. It wouldn't be so much push 3, but they can report the fireworks activity, calling 366-7000 and working it that way through the AI. Our concern is about just dialing 911 and saying there's fireworks, because you're just going to, I mean, there's other nonsense that goes on during this period, and so those are the places and times we need to be focused. So we'll put some verbiage like you've seen with other jurisdictions to remind folks when and where to call 911. But with the AI program, which has been very successful for us, I'll verify that, but I expect, based on the number of dispatchers we have working, that the AI program will be up and running at that time period.
Okay. And I do appreciate the city putting all of those illegal firework things out on, because I can't get, not that I'm on social media that often, but every time I get on, it's right there, which is good. And I have seen discussions sparked over it. You know, some people are kind of out there. Some people I'm like, I'm just going to screenshot this and send it to the chief because they think they can get away with it. So focus here. But no, I do really appreciate the city's efforts in education. It's been great. At the last meeting, I let the council know that I was going to have a meeting with environmental health and about the Galt Place project, or Galt Place. And so I coming to report back. Although my environmental health meeting got pushed, I actually did talk to someone in environmental health, and they actually put me in touch with several different county offices who have all been in, most of them have been in contact with me. I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple of others, but the one that was most engaged and very concerned was Adult Protective Services. Mainly because once I was on the phone with the gal, she typed in the address for Galt Place, and since there have been multiple individuals who have at that address who have been have been through Adult Protective Services, according to the gal I was talking to, she says this does seem to cause more of a concern for their department because all of the complaints that she could at least pull up immediately were about the same person in the concern for the adults' protection. So moving forward with that, she's supposed to call me back, and we're gonna. She said she probably will start making just some random stops there to see what's going on now that it's on her radar. Of course, she's limited, and unfortunately, one of the agencies I talked to, he was very interested in it, and then his comment came across to me, and he said, "You know, you probably should be talking to San Joaquin County about this." And I said, "No, we are in Sacramento County," and I think that that's part of our problem is that we all know this. We kind of get forgotten, but I do have a phone call into Project Sentinel. I talked to them. Their person who is over their fair housing is on vacation, but I've left a message and they've left a message for her to call me back. We also have some legal services that are specific for seniors and their situations. So I'm not going to let this die. But again, as I said at the last meeting, these people at Galt Place, the residents at Galt Place, are going to have to step up. And I know they're afraid. I know they're concerned about things that would happen. One of the interesting things I found is that because seniors are a protected class, that anything dealing with that could be deemed retaliation could trigger legal issues for that person. So, meaning if and when a resident came and spoke, let's say at council, or made a complaint or whatever, if there was some sort of negative reaction that came to them from either management or the owners or anyone who's affiliated in a supervisory role among that residence, can actually, and it's something that we should probably sit down and talk with the chief about, charges can be pressed, and they are a protected class. So, and that's where these legal services have been, that's what they're gonna try to focus on. So I think there's a little bit of hope. Maybe we can get a little bit done. I did find out some stuff in talking to the assistant city manager that there are some, when this building was built, of course, that was with city redevelopment funds. So there was some deals in there. And part of that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that I don't even know how much money was put into the building from the redevelopment funds. But if the developer, if the owner can show that they are operating at a loss, then halfway through that term, basically, if he's operating for a profit, then he has to start paying back part of that money. But if he shows a loss, then he doesn't have to pay it back, which is a problem for me because that seems like an incentive for him to show a loss, and then the day after that loss and he proves it, who knows what's going to happen. So I think we need to be really vigilant on this, because I think if I'm understanding it correctly, it was set up basically incentivizing the owner to play a long game. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I would like to be able to sit down and figure out and learn more about that contract and what that all means and what hold the city, because we're almost halfway through that. It's already 10, 15 years old, and I don't know what the term is, like 30 or 35 years. So we're coming close to that midterm. Anyway, so that's my report.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Rodriguez. I'll try to be brief. Just want to say thanks, Joan, for speaking. I agree with everything you said. Very much would like to see the Commission on Aging become more of an advocacy for the seniors. It's an important class in our city. You and I have been talking a little bit here and there. You've been talking with Councilman Rodriguez as well. But please continue your efforts. I appreciate it. I want to thank, to remind everybody, Thursday night, July 3rd. I'll get it right. July 3rd at the Best Western, our Vice Mayor graciously hosting the big barbecue with the military vehicles that are going to be in the parade the next day. It's free to the family, so please bring the kids out, the family out, let them climb around on the military vehicles. It's always a great evening, free food, all hosted by our Vice Mayor. So thank you again for doing that. I plan on being there as well, and look forward to a great evening. So thank you again, Paul, for doing that every year. It's a great community event. And with, of course, Heidi C. Don't miss it. Sounds like it's going to be one to remember. I want to thank staff, Public Works, police, Parks and Rec for all their hard work and preparation. I know it's a lot of work, so thank you. And I look forward to it every year. It's kind of like the Super Bowl. We call it down at the coffee shop. It's the Super Bowl, and it's going to be huge, and it's always a good time. Want to thank the staff for the outreach, for the posters and all the social media for the illegal fireworks. It's been a big deal, but I'm glad to getting the word out there. And for those of you people out there that plan on going on Facebook and complaining because you got a fine or something, don't message me and complain, because I had family members who lost a home last year to illegal fireworks. So I have a zero tolerance attitude for it, and you can have a good time celebrating Independence Day with legal fireworks, or you can enjoy the cities, but you don't need to create tragedy for other people. So a reminder, like Chief said, PD's going to be out there. Will we stop everybody from using illegal fireworks? No, we're not going to stop everybody, but will we be doing everything that we can? PD will be doing everything they can to ramp up enforcement to make sure that we will make it at least safer than it has been in previous years. So with that, I'll just wish everybody a happy 4th of July. Be safe, like I said. And we'll see you guys back here in a couple weeks. So we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:29. Good night, everybody.
Who had 8:30?